Good evening and welcome to Macquarie's Postgraduate Careers in Focus. I'm Connor and I'm a current student at Macquarie University. And today we'll focus on the career opportunities you can move into with a Master of Applied Finance from the Macquarie Business School. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Macquarie University land, the Wallamadigal people of the Darug Nations, whose cultures and customs have nurtured and continue to nurture this land since the dreaming. We pay our respects to elders, both past and present, and I would like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. As we do allow some time for attendees to join us, we would love for you to add what your background is in the chat, whether you came from a business or a non-business background. Please also note that this session is being recorded and will be shared with you after the event. If you do have any questions throughout this session, please put them in the question and answer box below. We'll answer them later on during a live question and answer section. Now, we have a really insightful session planned for you today. We'll start off with an interview exploring the careers a Master of Applied Finance can lead to with our course director, Dr. Lurian de Mello, and Master of Applied Finance alumni, Jack Wang. Dr. Lurian de Mello is a senior lecturer in Applied Finance and also the course director of the Master of Applied Finance. Previously, he was the course director of the Master of Commerce and the Bachelor of Applied Finance. He's also the co-chair of the annual Australasian Commodity Markets Conference, and he also completed his PhD in economics here at Macquarie University, where his thesis focused on price dynamics of upstream and downstream petrochemical markets, such as ethylene, propylene, and methanol. His research interests are around energy economics and finance and behavioral finance. He provides commentary through Australian and also international media with opinions on issues surrounding crude oil markets, fuel price cycles, adopting new fuel standards in Australia, energy security, transition to alternative energy, monetary policy, and also education. He is also experienced in commenting on other commodities, including coal, hydrogen, and LNG. Now, Lurian has published papers in internationally referenced high-impact journals, including the Energy Economics Energy Journal and Energy Policy, the Global Finance Journal of Energy and Development, the Journal of Applied Corporate Finance, Accounting and Business Research, Journal of Behavioral Finance, International Review of Economics and Finance, and the Journal of Behavioral and Experimental Finance. And in addition to his teaching and research commitments, Lurian mentors students and is an active member of the Australian-India Business Council. Now, beyond academic, he is a cricket tragic, giving back to the community as a cricket coach at the Carlingford Waratah Cricket Club in New South Wales for over the past 5 years. And we're really honoured to have him here in our webinar today. Now, we are also very lucky to have Jack Wang, who has built a diverse career starting with over 6 years in healthcare and then moving into the retail banking. Since completing his Master of Applied Finance in 2024, he's now working in equity capital markets, providing capital market advisory services to public and private companies. So let's get started. Welcome, Lurian and Jack. Lurian, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us about the Master of Applied Finance here at Macquarie?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you, Connor, for the kind introduction. Look, the Master of Applied Finance it's a very, very long established program that we've had since the 1980s. It has changed over the years just to make it purely flexible for people who are working in the industry, whether they are in finance or coming from a non-finance sort of background. The Master of Applied Finance, you can enter, if you come from a non-finance background, you can enter through a graduate certificate. And this is taught fully online. So we have students all over Australia, overseas, taking part in that. And then you can, so that's 4 units. And then you go into the Graduate Diploma of Finance. That's another 4 units. So you can either enroll in the entire Master of Applied Finance if you need to, or you can scaffold it and come in as to the grad cert or the grad dip, and then you can finish the remaining 4 units. So it's a 1.5-year program. It's very flexible. We do allow students to pause because, family circumstances, work circumstances can change. So you can pause your studies. You can study full time. The classes are in the evening. And look, the biggest thing of it all is the entire program is taught by industry professionals. There is no other program that I've come across in Australia where you are taught by industry professionals, and some of these industry professionals are alumni of the program, and they've got solid experience. So that's the value proposition. Is that is the amount of stuff you learn from industry. I'm not saying academics fall short of that. I mean, we do engage with a lot with the industry as well. But I think that's first-hand experience is something that's truly valuable about the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Lorraine. And we'll have the opportunity to ask you questions from our attendees later. And this is your opportunity. Add it to that question and answer session, a section down below. We'll move on to you, Jack, as an alumni. So you've got your background in medical science. What actually drew you to the postgraduate applied finance at Macquarie?
Thanks, Connor, and hi everyone. So actually, just a bit of background on my background. So I actually, after I graduated from, or with my Bachelor of Medical Science, I got a job in healthcare, as Connor mentioned. And during that time, I actually, started getting interested in day trading. And that's the reason why I fell in love with finance. And so I really wanted to get a job in finance. And as Lurian mentioned, Macquarie University's Master of Applied Finance has practitioners actually teaching the courses. And as well, it's very flexible for people who already have a full-time job. And that's the reason why I was drawn to this course.
Awesome. And so how would you say that this course has really helped you transition careers?
It's definitely helped a lot. So, sorry. So one thing I really liked about the course is that it really gave a good foundation of how the financial markets really work. And you get a good understanding of different financial instruments, the different regulations, and just how the financial market as a whole fits in with the broader economy. And that's especially helpful for my current role as in working in equity capital markets. So I think it's really got me on the right foot when I started this new career.
Okay, so it seems like you've learned a bunch of skills. What do you think the most useful skill you gained was?
That's a very hard question. I would say that uh, the hardest skill, or the best skill I learned probably is just report writing. So actually, one thing I found interesting with the Master of Applied Finance is that while there are some exams, there aren't that many exams. It's actually a lot of reports that you have to write, and a lot of these reports are actually tailored towards practical things that you'll do in like a working environment. So for example, in my last assignment, we had to pretend that we were working in the treasury in a sorry, a chemical firm, and we had to structure debt, the debt profile, as well as recommend whether they pursue investment in a solar capex program. And then you had to write that into a board report, and that's not something you really get exposure to earlier on in your career. So I think that sort of exposure is very good and something I really value to this day.
Awesome. That's really helpful and interesting, and seems that you've taken much use of that. And we have people online here that are kind of considering their next options. If you had to give advice to the students that are considering studying a Master of Applied Finance here at the Macquarie Business School, what advice would you give them?
Look, I think if you're really passionate about finance, I think it's something that you should look into, because I think it's because the Macquarie University of Master of Applied Finance is taught by practitioners. It's really going to give you a good insight in what it's going to be like working in finance. And for people who are interested, I would recommend just taking maybe just a week before you start, just learning how to learn. I think that's really going to give you a good edge. It certainly gave me a good edge when I started. And just even if you get better at learning by 10%, that's going to save you 10% of your time, especially if you're working a full-time job. And the other advice I'd give is definitely try schedule your time as well. Just in preparation for this course. So just maybe spend like an hour a day just doing some reading or some study or like pre-study or something like that. Just because doing something every day is better than doing it all in one go and like on one weekend or something like that. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Jack, for that advice. If you want more advice from Jack or you have a question, that question and answer box is down below. But we're just going to quickly switch over into kind of some background in what the Master of Applied Finance is. Overall, this is a really academically rigorous program designed and delivered by industry experts who bring real-world financial experience straight into the classroom. It's not just the theory, but it's the practical and relevance that is focused on what matters in today's kind of financial landscape. Beyond that, the degree is also professionally accredited and recognized by leading industry bodies, including the ACTA and the CFA Institute. That means that it hits the highest standards and is also respected by employers around the world. Now, whether you're looking to kind of accelerate your current financial career or pivot into the field from another sector like Jack, this course will equip you with the knowledge and skills to make that transition with confidence. Now, if you're looking at applying, we need a few items of documents from you. These will include a proof of residence, evidence of all academic qualifications, such as degrees and official transcripts, and where applicable, we'll also need evidence of English language proficiency. Now, in addition to those core admission requirements, you are also expected to provide an up-to-date resume or CV outlining your relevant academic and professional experience. Beyond that, just be prepared to supply details of 2 referees, as referee check forms may be requested during our selection process. Now, I really encourage you to ensure that all your documentation is accurate and complete ahead of the application due dates to kind of avoid delays in getting your application submitted. So you might be wondering whether our next intake is coming up. And with that, let me share, we have 2 new intakes for this year. Our next available intake is term 3, 2025. Now, applications for this term closes on the 9th of June, with classes commencing on the 30th of June. Now, if that doesn't work for you, we also have a term 4 application. Now, this deadline for that application is a 1st of September, with classes beginning on the 22nd of September. Now, once again, I encourage you to submit your application well ahead of the deadlines, just to ensure that there's ample time for any issues that may arise. Now, this is such a big and broad degree or course at Macquarie. So we want just to dive into a little bit of the career outcomes and opportunities available to graduates of this program. Now, the qualification opens a range of sectors within the financial industry. Our graduates are well positioned to pursue roles in banks and financial institutes, as well as businesses and large corporations where financial expertise is really essential. There's also opportunities that also exist in investment firms, private equity and venture capital organizations, and within regulatory authorities that oversee financial systems and compliance. Additionally, many students also go on to build successful careers in wealth management and financial advising services, supporting their clients in achieving their financial goals. This program equips you with the knowledge and the skills to thrive in a variety of dynamic and rewarding financial roles. Now, to kind of give you a clearer sense of where this qualification can take you, here are just listed some specific career paths pursued by our graduates. You may choose to become a banking and finance manager, a corporate finance analyst, an investment manager, a risk management specialist, and even other roles, including stockbroker or venture capitalist. Now, these broad range of kind of roles, reflect the versatility and value of these qualifications in today's financial landscapes. Now, we're going to move on to our live question and answer sessions with Jack and Dr. Lurian. Now, if you do have any questions, please put them down below. But if we are unable to address your questions tonight, or if you just think of other questions after this session, we really encourage you to book a one-on-one consultation with our team. We're more than happy to provide personalized guidance and support as you kind of consider your next steps forward. You can just scan that QR code on the screen. Anyway, we might kind of flow on to Jack and Dr. Lurian and kind of get them to answer some questions. One of the questions is, how many hours per week should I really dedicate to this program?
Jack, I think given your experience, probably you can have a go at this.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the subject and as well as your background as well. So, for example, for me, I found that some subjects I didn't really have to study that much for, because they weren't that difficult for me. But then the subjects and then I would do the best in those subjects, and then some subjects I would have to, study even more for and do worse on because I just wasn't very strong in those areas. So, I think it really depends. But I think as a guide, maybe like 1 to 2 hours per subject.
Okay, awesome.
And for me, just to add on to it, I mean, you can have your time commitment towards a particular unit or or study, but we have access to financial databases like London Stock Exchange Group, LSEG Workspace is called. Used to be called Refinitiv Icon. It's similar to Bloomberg, if you heard of Bloomberg Terminal. We have Standard and Poor's Capital IQ, which is used in the mergers and acquisition space a fair bit. We have FactSet, so we can get access to these databases. So, you can study for your assignments and your tests, and you can also, get curious and do a bit more independent sort of deep dives into certifications. Although certifications are not compulsory for any units, but I get my students in my capital markets class, in the Master of Banking and Finance and Master of Commerce units to do certifications. So this is something that can be opened up. We've had a few students take up that offer. So it all depends how much you want to get through. And this kind of a segue into a question that's been posted about, it's an anonymous question about finding a job, right? The 4 years experience as a financial analyst in my home country, finding a hard job. I mean, I'm happy to give a one-to-one consultation on that because I'll have to know more about the background. But I think I actually had an alumni speaker in my class yesterday, and they emphasized on LinkedIn and the power of networking, going to events, making sure that you're on a mailing list. So you have to do a lot of networking. And this is something what the Master of Applied Finance provides. So recently, I think we had a alumni panel session with Paul Bloxham, who is the chief economist of HSBC, and he went to university with me. So these are kind of events you need to really, participate in rather than just approaching recruiters, right? So, but I'm happy to give one-on-one consultation just to find out a bit more background. So sorry to hijack Connor, but maybe Jack, you can sort of give some tips on how students could network, because it is a bit challenging, finding work or making those inroads initially. So perhaps you can share some insights there, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. So I think with finance especially, depending on the position, it can be very competitive. I know for me personally, I had to do a lot of, what Lorraine was talking about, doing a lot of networking, going on LinkedIn, doing cold messaging and whatnot to get my current role. It's definitely not easy, and I think it's what I've found, what I've seen at least, is that the people who do the best and actually manage to get some legway in getting there, getting those getting those competitive positions. It's from just doing a lot of networking on the side. There's no real going around it. honestly.
Yeah, and another thing just that came to mind is we have the CFA challenge, right, every year. It's open to students, and so the alumni speaker, who is now working for Export Finance Australia, ended up working at Macquarie Bank, worked at the Big Four. He still remembers this CFA challenge that he participated in at university, and that was the highlight because I think the company that had to do a valuation was Telstra, but each CFA challenge team has an industry mentor, and his mentor was from a lady from CBA. Even though they didn't win the competition, they came third or fourth. It was that process that led to opportunities of him getting a job in CBA. And he wasn't completely mainstream finance, but he was in some sort of a support role. But that was enough for him to launch his career. So, yeah.
So, Dr. Lurian, kind of going off that, we see that there's really a large kind of a range of where students can end up. You seem kind of heavily involved in kind of mentoring students and kind of getting them beyond their graduation. Where do you see as kind of the most typical career paths that graduates kind of pursue after completing this degree?
Yeah, look, finance is such a broad area. If people like equities or they like stocks, people go down that path of become an equity analyst. But there's job opportunities. Like a lot of my students end up in banks, working with anti-money laundering, working on projects around superannuation. Of course, portfolio management is an area that usually leads down that path. But we've also had corporate finance type roles, mergers and acquisitions. So a lot of the big four CA firms have finance arms, and they have consultation sort of advisory sort of arms. So they end up in that kind of space. So there's a lot of stuff in project finance, infrastructure. As I said, you just need to jump onto LinkedIn, and I'm the manager of those pages. So feel free to connect or send a request to join the pages, and you can see people who have done the Master of Applied Finance 20 years ago to people who have completed like 4 or 5 years ago. And you just have to follow their LinkedIn profile and look at their career paths. So yeah, it's an area that's very broad. The next question's about people pivoting into this sector. That's important. Completely undergraduate honors degree. So Jack, he come from a health science sort of background. We've had students come from a law background. At a recent orientation event, I had geologists, someone from engineering, right? Mining engineering, to be specific. So that's where the graduate certificate in finance is there for, because you already have that business experience. And recently I had a student from Fiji who works for ANZ in Fiji. Unfortunately, due to family circumstances, was unable to complete the undergraduate degree 20 years ago, but has 20 years experience in a treasury type role. And so he would qualify to do the graduate certificate in finance, even though they didn't finish their bachelor's, because they had that equivalent industry experience. And so I had a one-on-one chat with him. We just connected on LinkedIn. And this is I've connected with students on a bus, right? And who've ended up in Macquarie. So it's all about connections. It's all about making yourself available. And I'm available for any amount of consultation anyone needs beyond this webinar.
Awesome. That's a great opportunity for those that are listening to this webinar. And I really encourage you all to take Dr. Lurian up on that. We're kind of coming to the end of our webinar, but I asked Jack what advice he would give. Dr. Lurian, what advice would you give to a student potentially looking to get into this?
Yeah, look, go onto our website, really look at the unit descriptions on our handbook. because particularly the units that are in the flexible zone or the elective units, you got to see which of those units could be suitable. And if you need any advice beyond the information that we've provided, on our websites, reach out to our future students team for a one-to-one consult. And I've clearly instructed them to forward me any specific details that you might have, and it's only through conversations, and you need to be well informed, right? Because it is a commitment, and you have to make sure that you are sort of able to remain committed to completing the course. So do reach out. That's I'm happy to guide you through the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Lurian. Jack, one kind of final question for you. For students that might come from a different background, or even students that are, kind of on the fence of whether to do it or not, what would you say to that student? What would you have said to yourself when you were kind of considering jumping into this?
Well, it really depends on what you want, right? So if you really want it, then you just got to do it. Like the Nike slogan. So yeah, not much I can really add to that, honestly.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jack. And now with that kind of last question, we've come to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us this evening. And a really big special thanks to you, Lurian and Jack, as well. If we haven't gotten to your question, or if you have any more questions, feel free to get in contact with our future students team. We look forward to welcoming you to Macquarie University soon. Take care and have a good night.